Welcome to the Freedom Files, a monthly series inside Life After Enough, where I sit down with people who've actually stepped off the hamster wheel and I ask the only question that matters: what happens next in real life? For our very first Freedom File, I'm joined by my good friend Simon. He's an ex-lawyer and is now officially retired. He just spent a year living in Lombok. Next stop is Canada to train as a ski instructor, and after that, well, he's cycling around the world to raise money to protect threatened ecosystems. But the part I wanted to understand the most wasn't actually the adventure. It was the moment he stopped thinking about leaving and actually walked away. Welcome to the Freedom Files. You've built the career, you're building the portfolio, you're close to freedom. So what now? Welcome to Life After Enough. Money, meaning, and the life you design when work becomes optional. I'm Nick. I'm racing towards early retirement and figuring out who I become when the job no longer dictates what I do with my time. Let's get into it. Simon, thank you so much for being here for the very first episode of the Freedom Files. This is going to be so much fun. Okay, take me back to the moment you knew, I'm really doing this, I'm done. What tipped you from thinking about it to actually walking away from law?
First of all, hi, Nick, and thank you so much for having me on the Freedom Files. I'm really excited to be here. It's amazing. And to spread the word a bit as well. What tipped me over the edge, if you like, is mainly down to you.
Wow.
Because, so to tell the story, back during COVID, you became obsessed with fire, and for some reason, I listened.
It's unusual, actually, for you and me.
Well, yeah, exactly. But we used to go rock climbing, and we'd talk about it and talk about how life could be different. Just because COVID gave us that slight opportunity to pause a bit and just gave me more time to think about things. Those conversations kind of just led me to building a plan. It was sort of a 5-year plan. And here I am. It's 5 years later. I've retired and it's fantastic. So I guess I always knew that I wanted something different. I was lucky enough to have great people to work with who kept me interested and also work around the world. So every couple of years, I'd be sent off somewhere, whether it was Hong Kong or Geneva. So I was so lucky to get to do that. But it just kept me engaged in it. When I was starting to feel a bit bored, they'd go off over here. So it just kept me in that when I knew that wasn't ultimately the path that was going to make me happy long term. When COVID came, it gave me the chance to really think it through. And with your help teaching me about fire, and the opportunity to make a plan.
Well, that sounds pretty incredible, and I'm very pleased to be part of that journey. It was a really interesting and exciting time as well, because that's also when I found it, and you were one of the few people who actually started listening to me and sharing the ideas and kind of formulating plans together and thinking about life in a different way. So I know life for you at the moment is really exciting. You're speaking to me from Lombok. I can see the trees in the background. And we've got lots of exciting things happening in 2026. But just rewinding a little bit, because for a long time, your life looked very familiar to the life of a lot of people who'll be listening in. So take us back. What did life actually look like when you were still practicing law full time?
It was long hours, late night conference calls with clients across the world. I realized since I've stopped doing it, how much I saved to it. I would wake up in the morning and the first thoughts would be, oh, what's happening on this case? Oh, I've got to speak to this client today. Oh, I've got to do that. Whereas, I didn't take a moment to think about myself. It was straight into it every single day. Stepping away from it makes you realize how much that is the case. So yeah, it was long hours and all that sort of thing, never doing as much exercise as I wanted to. Kind of you'd go for drinks after work, but then of course that gives you a hangover the next day, and it just you get into that spiral. I'm sure it's the story of a lot of people. I was lucky enough to have a good career and work around the world, but it was a lot of time just sat at a desk, stationary, long hours, and yeah.
So that point where the job stopped giving back what you were putting in, I think that's a real, really important acknowledgement, because
Mm.
for a long time, especially at the start of a career, you do have to give everything and you do need to prove yourself and develop your skills and kind of start climbing the ladder. But I think a lot of people never then change from that mentality into then preserving time for you and to carving out different identities alongside of your work identity. So I think that's very interesting. What
Mm.
was it that changed, though, for you to make that realization? Was it you? Was it the work? Was it the context? How did you figure that bit out?
No, I think I always knew. I've always had this thing. I want to achieve something. I didn't know what it was. And I always kind of knew it wouldn't be within the work I was doing. I hope this doesn't sound conceited, but I think I was quite good at my job. And you know that because you're good at it, you sort of get a bit trapped in it, and you feel like because you're good at it, sometimes you that's what you should be doing. But in the back of my mind, I always knew. So there wasn't. I wouldn't say there was a specific moment. I just, it was there.
Yeah. And at that time, do you think a lot of your identity was wrapped up in being a lawyer, or did you kind of have that in a box and you're always this?
For sure, for sure. It's
Yeah.
something that I've actually been dealing with quite a bit since I've retired. Actually, even saying the word retired, I kind of it's taken me a while to get used to saying that word, and it has all sorts of connotations, which sometimes I'm not sure about. But anyway, um, since I've retired, you lose your identity, because it was so wrapped up in being a lawyer. That's how people see you. But also, you're used to working with a team of people. You're used to having people listen to you when you're giving advice to clients and that sort of thing. Um, Suddenly, I'm not that anymore, and you think, well, okay, what am I? And that's quite confronting, and something took me a bit of time to deal with. I thought, oh, do I miss being a lawyer? And the answer to that question is no. But you sort of, because your identity gets wrapped up in it, you need to work out what it is that's next for you.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's such a big thing because work just takes over so much of your life that when you're giving so much and you're doing it every day, you do wake up and you start thinking about it, and you do go to sleep and you're still thinking about it. And it's this endless cycle. And I don't know about you, but if I was to go back in time and you took the work away, I don't know what my identity would have been. If I was in my late 20s and you take the work side of things away, I hadn't done any work in any other kind of pillars of enough, as I call it, to work out who I would be or what I would be. Would you feel the same, or
Mm.
were you a bit more rounded than I was?
No, it took me a long time to sort of develop and realize what I wanted to do. I didn't really know in my 20s. I sort of ended up um, taking that safe route, do a law degree and become a lawyer. Actually, what my dad did. And little did I know that there were other things out there that I would grow more and more kind of passionate for, and be more aligned with what I wanted to do.
Yeah, no one really tells you about this stuff, right? It's all the sort of things you figure out along the way.
That's right. If I'd said, to like a career as advisor at school or something, I want to be um, a ski instructor, expedition cyclist, and or run a travel company, and or be an actor or presenter. But back then, A, I wouldn't have thought of it. B, they'd have looked at me like, how are you going to do that? It just wasn't the kind of path that people offer you. It wasn't what I saw for myself.
I think it was 2019 you did a sabbatical. Is that right?
That is absolutely right.
And so obviously you know that I've done a sabbatical over the last 6 months, and it's really given me some time and space to think about things, to start this podcast. What impact did it have for you, given that this was the kind of realization phase of you're giving too much and identities and things like that? What else came out of it from that? And what was it, a turning point for you in your career and life, or what else?
Yeah, very much so. I spent my sabbatical outdoors, which is where I love to be. I cycled across Europe. Took me about 2.5 months, and I went and climbed mountains in the Himalayas in Nepal. It was absolutely fantastic, and just that realization, it gave me that realization and faith that yeah, I want to spend my life outdoors more and not be sat at a desk. When I went back to work, I was quite lucky that a few months later we were talking about fire, so which gave me the opportunity to make a plan to sort of achieve that.
And so then fire then entered your world. And at that point, you've done your sabbatical. You're starting to think a bit bigger picture about adventures and travel and things like that in a life that where lawyering and work doesn't take up everything. And that
Yeah.
was 5 years ago now. So from that point to now,
Mm.
this fire journey has kind of come full circle. And now you're starting to live the fire dream. What was it that hooked you onto it? Was it the freedom? Was it the numbers? Was it the feeling of escape? What was it about fire in particular at that time that really kind of lit a fire under you to do all this? Because 5 years is quite a
Yeah.
quick time to do this and to get everything in order, really.
As I say, combination of the knowledge that I always wanted to achieve something with my life. I knew I wasn't going to achieve that in my job. The knowledge that I wanted to spend more of my life outdoors and not sat at a desk, and the the kind of looking around the office and seeing the people who were 10, 15, 20 years older than me, knowing that I didn't want, that was not something I wanted to aspire to. You know, those weren't the people that I wanted to be. Um, and so that was a big driver as well. Seeing the young trainees come in, so kind of bright eyed and bushy tailed, and within a year or two, you sort of worn them down with the cares of work and long hours. And I felt sorry for them, and I didn't want people to be coming into that environment in some ways.
And then, so over the 5 years, did you ever have a serious one more year phase? So that's obviously something that goes around in the fire community quite a lot. So you get to your number and then you decide, oh, I need some more buffer. I want to change something, or the market looks dodgy. Did you go through that process, or are you pretty kind of certain that after this time frame, I'm done, and you've pulled the trigger and you've actually done it? Because a lot of people in this space do reach the number and then carry on grinding. So it's really, really refreshing to talk to you and to see what you're doing with your life now, where you have reached it and you've done it. But in that flow, did you extend, your deadline in your head, or how did that kind of play out in real life?
No, I did not want to keep working once I'd reached fire. And I see people do that and I don't understand it. And I think it comes from a place of being a bit scared of it and of losing that identity that you have, of losing that safety. But you just got to go out there and grab it and live your dream. I was ready to move on. I would just urge people to just even just write down what their fears might be of moving to that next stage. Then you can, if you do that, you can rationally kind of work through them.
And what were your fears then at that time? Did you have any? Did you do that exercise yourself?
Yeah, I mean, like everyone else is kind of stuck in that corporate life, and and so surely that's the right thing to be doing. I have this identity built around this, and how's it going to work? Am I going to have enough money? Am I going to be bored? Yeah, I remember I first moved to Lombok. I was like, this is amazing, but is it going to be enough? And a year later, yeah, I mean, I love it here.
Yeah. And how, I don't know about you, but when your identity is so wrapped up in work, I think you can also fall into a trap where your identity is wrapped up in what your colleagues and friends in the same circles are doing and progressing and working up the corporate ladders. And that position that you once maybe coveted when you were younger, they're now in and kind of achieving and have teams and whatever else. How does that sit with you? Because I think you sound very grounded, and it's
Get
something
out
that,
of there and go
yeah.
somewhere. Get out of there and go somewhere else. That's what I've done. And because I go back to Singapore now, where I was working most recently, and people are just stuck in that same rut. I got out of there and I moved to Lombok, and I live in a community of people who just are following their dreams. They're all active, outdoorsy, sporty. You literally say, "Oh, I'm going to go to the moon this week," and people say, "Oh, you can do that! Excellent, brilliant, fantastic!" And so, you can find people out there who aren't stuck in that same routine, and will give you belief that you can do whatever you want to do.
I think fear and FOMO are two of the most poisonous things, actually, that can infiltrate your mind, because fear can really hold you back on things, and you can tell yourself anything. If you're afraid, your body and brain will do anything to make sure that you don't go and do that. So if you can unlock not feeling like that, that's such a win. And then FOMO is just the the joy killer of life, because there's always going to be someone better than you, richer than
Oh,
you, more successful than you. So if you compare yourself to others, colleagues, ex-colleagues, or whatever, it is just the recipe for disaster, I think.
it's the compare despair thing. I've actually, yeah, had to deal with this in my own mind quite a lot. You know, the way I deal with it now is I've realized that I'm on my journey where I'm going, and that's where I need to be. That other person in the gym who's much more muscular and better looking, they're on their journey and they're where they need to be. And that's fine. They might have other problems that I don't know about, you know, and good for them to be on their journey wherever they are on them. But I'm on mine, and this is where mine's meant to be. And so, yeah, it's such an easy trap to fall into of comparing yourself to others, especially with social media these days. But that's something I've really worked hard on. As I say, that's the way I'm dealing with it at the moment.
Quick pause. If this episode is sparking something for you, hit follow so you don't miss what's coming next. Feel free to share it with someone who'd love it too. It really helps the show to grow. Okay, so at this point, the career's kind of in a position where you're fed up with it and done with it. You found fire. So talk me through the moment you actually quit. How did that feel? Was it like this big euphoric moment? Because you imagine all sorts of it when you actually think, oh, I'm going to go and do it and walk away. How did it actually feel in real life?
Yeah, it was a bit more of a slow burn because I told my colleagues about a year in advance of my plans so that I could wind things down at work. They could get used to the idea, prepare to perhaps replace me or whatever it is. And I had one last project that I knew was going to run. So it was a bit of a slow burn. I didn't have that moment of like say, right, I'm out, I'm leaving. I guess I did have to tell some clients towards the end, and actually, they couldn't have been more supportive and encouraging of what, I wanted to do with the next phase of my life. It was really quite a satisfying experience because it wasn't this big euphoric moment because my brain took some time to like catch up.
I imagine the client dinners actually probably were the moment where it really hit home, because when you tell your clients, the ones that you've worked so hard to kind of build the relationships with and everything else, from my perspective, that's when I would feel that that's the time it's actually real. It's hitting home. I'm doing it. I'm committed. So was it that, or was it the time you actually quit?
Yeah, that actually, as I say, I've been building up to it for such a long time, but that it did really hit home. Yeah, yeah.
So now you're in your life after enough. We've kind of pulled the trigger. It's
Yay.
official. You're done. You're living the dream. So what does a normal week look like for you now?
I get up at sort of 6 a.m. The sun streams in the morning, and I open the curtains to views of hills and mountains. I go off and do a yoga class, or go to the gym, or go surfing, um, or go cycling, or go running. So yeah, it's been a lot of fitness and a lot of just being outdoors as well, which is fantastic. And someone said to me the other day, "Is there a particular time this year where you've smiled?" I literally smile when I see the sun shining in the morning. I smile when I get up and go to my yoga class, when I have my morning coffee, when I walk into the gym and I get high fives from the people who work there. That's actually a big difference. I kind of was thinking, oh, when did I used to smile when I had to get up and go to work every morning? Yeah, not often, but I smile literally all the time now.
Yeah, I think we need a bit more of that in Singapore, actually. So what's better than you imagined, and what's been harder than you've expected?
So harder, as I say, at first I thought, did I miss it? Do I miss this? Because your identity's tied up with it. You're used to working with a team all the time as well, and just having those other people around you, and people listening to you, and having a project that you're sort of working on. And I thought, do I miss it? I mean, I quickly came to the realization I don't, but I just had to go through that process of sort of realizing it's okay to do nothing for a while, and it's fine to take some rest.
100%. That's so important. It's so important. And you don't get to do that when you're working, because your weekends are so precious. You feel you have to fill every second of it with something fun and exciting. When you're on your holidays, it's the same. And only when I was on my sabbatical, and now you're doing this, and on your sabbatical, do you get stretches of nothing where you can fill it with slow mornings and slowness. And actually, that's when the magic starts to happen.
It's so true. Getting over that sort of slight guilt of feeling, oh, I'm being lazy. No, you're not. You're re-energizing. You're refreshing, and that's when your mind starts to kind of open up and have ideas and think creatively.
And talking of amazing ideas and thinking creatively, I know you've got some big
Mm.
plans for 2026. We've alluded to them so far, but what is on the agenda?
Yeah, exciting times. Firstly, I'm flying to Canada on New Year's Eve, and I'm going to do a course to become a ski instructor, and working towards becoming a sort of off-piste guide. So that's really exciting. Um, I'm looking forward to actually just getting into the course, and I won't have to think about anything else other than skiing. That's going to be great.
How amazing
You
will
know,
that be every day? Yeah, I can wake up thinking about that and go to sleep
I
thinking about
know.
that every day. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely fine. So I'm looking forward to that. Then I plan to cycle around the world. This week, I've come up with a crazy harebrained idea to try and raise £1 million for charity doing this ride. So it's becoming a cycling expedition, and I'm going to do it for a charity called the World Land Trust, who work to protect threatened ecosystems all around the world. And they literally buy up land and conserve it. I thought about all sorts of causes that I could do this ride for. You can try and fix one disease, but unless we've got a healthy planet, then we're in trouble. It's going to take me, I don't know, it could be 18 months, 2 years to get around the world. Um, I've got to try and build some sponsorship, and I'll be recording and posting it all on social media. So yeah, it's going to be really exciting.
Wow. I mean, cycling around the world just sounds, on the one hand, it's insane, but on the other hand, so
Yeah.
Simon, it's unbelievable. What's the longest you've done in one stint before?
I got across Europe in 2019 for about 2.5 months, and I got to the end of it, and I was like, I don't really want to stop. So this time I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to keep going around the world. So yeah. Who knows? God, I'm 45 now. I don't know if I can do it, but I've been training for it. You break these challenges down into sort of small chunks, and like any big project, and you just got to keep turning the pedals.
I have every faith in you that you'll not only achieve this, but also meet your funding target. And I think you've got some
Thank
friends
you.
who are interested in joining on the way for different stints to keep you company.
Yeah, I haven't had your response, Nick, yet. Are you
It's
gonna
in the post.
join me? You gonna join me for a
I'll
bit?
join. There's also a mountain element to it.
Yes, that's right. So I'm going to cycle around the world, and as if that wasn't enough, climb a mountain on each continent that I visit.
That's the bit I'll consider joining.
Amazing, amazing, good, good. Pleased to hear it.
And what's been the reaction so far to people when you've said this? What are your friends thinking? Not only of you leaving, retiring, and then moving on from law, but then also doing, a real passion project like this as well.
One thing I do still, I have struggled with a little bit, is telling people, yeah, I'm retired. Like,
Mm.
because people don't get it. They're like, what? Really? Sometimes I'm a bit more edged about it. Well, I'm not working at the moment, and thinking about what's next. Or I just talk about my plans to cycle around the world, which in Lombok, where I'm living at the moment, gets everyone very excited, and they think it's amazing and I can do it. In other places, they're like, what? Wait, around the world? Really? No, that's crazy. I sometimes wonder if people are going to resent the fact that I'm retired and they're still plugging away working. I'm in the position that I don't have a family and kids, and a lot of people do, and they're sort of in that routine because they have to provide that for their kids. And one of the things on the bike ride, though, is I hope I can just inspire people to, even though yeah, you've got to work, but can you spend some more time outdoors, and just get that extra bit of time for yourself, time for exercise, time for nature into your life. So I think it's really important for people.
I think people can be almost trapped in, as I mentioned before, this fear bubble. They wouldn't necessarily resent the post-fire life and retiring early, but they'd almost be scared for you because they couldn't see it for themselves. So whether they think they might get bored
Yes.
or worry that you'll run out of money and need to come back to work, and that might be hard after 5 or 6 years of no legal work. So I think some people come from it from that perspective without having the broader kind of eyes open approach to life that you now have, and that anything is possible. It doesn't have to be extreme. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can have a middle road. There's lots of options and things that you can do, but people see it in this kind of binary. Okay, you're working
Yeah.
for a corporate or a law firm and you're going to be partner or you're going to be CEO, or you're not and you're on a beach drinking cocktails. And, that's the only choice between the
Yeah.
two. And it just
Yeah,
doesn't work like
exactly.
that. Yeah.
No, I would say, sit and write down a list of all those things that you always wanted to do. I think everyone has in the back of their minds those things that they've always wanted to do. We'll just get thinking about those things. And that will, well, make you realize that there is a life beyond the corporate life that you're in now. And it will take away some of the fear of what's next. Also, it just inspire you to work hard to try to reach fire, because there are all these wonderful things that you can do.
Yeah. And you said that you've now kind of found your people, you found your community in Lombok. Do you think
Mm.
that's possible outside of somewhere like Lombok or Bali, these kind of traditional
Mhm.
digital nomad hubs? Could you do that if you were still in London or in Singapore? How do you go around finding your people when you have to stay in a certain place?
Yeah, good question. The internet these days has so many options. Social media, there's groups out there, there's people out there who are working towards fire and or who've got there. And if there's one thing that I find it's really exciting, is like when people say, "Oh, are you doing fire?" Or they know about fire, and like it immediately starts a conversation. And so there are people out there that you can find, and inevitably, as soon as the fire concept comes up, it strikes a conversation, and you will find people that those people that are in your mindset and your community.
On that point, I was in a cafe the other day and I just overheard a conversation on a table near me, and they were talking about fire. One of them had clearly found it online and then was just giving some basic principles to the friend. And it just
Wow.
kind of warmed my heart that, people are starting to
Mhm.
wake up to the idea of you can kind of carve your own path in life and you don't have to be stuck doing a job that doesn't resonate with you anymore or isn't your identity anymore. And it was a really good moment. So just in kind of pearls of wisdom from Simon, what's really matters now in life versus what didn't before?
Yeah. So can I be a bit woo woo for a minute?
100%. Absolutely.
um, yeah, and I'm the first to admit this sounds a bit woo woo. But the thing that I've kind of learnt about recently is that everyone has within them this kind of life force energy. Um, and that energy needs replenishing and recharging every single day. That's one of the most important things that I've realized. And it can be replenished and recharged through just breathing properly, taking some time to sit and breathe, eating good and healthy food, taking time for exercise, activity, all that stuff. But that's something that gets that very much neglected when you're stuck in that corporate lifestyle, and eventually it just becomes more and more drained. Um, and just replenishing that life force energy is something I make sure I try and do every single day, even if it's just like this morning. I woke up and I was immediately thinking about my $1 million fundraising project. And I was like, no, just take 5 minutes for yourself. Just, sit quietly, breathe, relax, for 5 minutes, and just think about how you're feeling first.
Do you say then that this replenishment of the life force energy, as you call it, would
Mhm.
be kind of the core tenet of what's enough for you today? So financially, you're covered, and then other pillars
Mm.
of enough, so the kind of relationships and identity and
It is.
lifestyle. Is this it?
It is, because that energy is very much who you are, and who you are is enough. Yeah, you're enough. Just being yourself and realizing that energy inside you is you, and you're where you need to be.
For someone who's out there who's thinking, I'm financially close, I'm nearly there, maybe I haven't done the work on other identities and areas of enough in my life right now. So they're kind of emotionally on the precipice, but can't kind of make that jump. What do you advise them to do? What's your kind of pearls of wisdom for them?
I spend 20 minutes writing in my journal every morning. I mean, like literally just get a notebook and just write whatever comes into your head. And that just clears out all of that nonsense that's inside your head, the thoughts that are constantly buzzing around, and it strips away. It just simplifies things and it makes you realize kind of what's important. So the tip I have for that is like, make yourself write 3 pages every day. Because if you keep writing, you might write, I don't know what to write next. I don't know what to write next. I don't know what to write next. But as long as you fill 3 pages, it just gets your brain into that next stage of thinking through, okay, what's the real issue here? Why am I really feeling like this? And you write that down and often it goes away if you're feeling bad in some way. So that's great.
Yeah, and to build kind of lasting habits, just the process of sitting down, getting a notepad, getting your pen, and doing that
Absolutely.
will kind of create the habit.
It just needs 15 minutes. Just go to bed 15 minutes earlier, wake up 15 minutes earlier, and just do it.
Yeah. And I think you can carve out these moments of precious me time, no matter how busy you are, because it's very unusual to wake up and immediately start working and immediately stop working and then just get into bed. There's time at each end of the day. For me, it's always the morning because there's less pressure in the morning. It's easier to carve out that time for you. Set your alarm 10 minutes earlier, 5 minutes earlier, and you can do something like this or go out and do yoga or do some sunshine work. Okay, and then final question. Any advice you'd give your pre-fire self with all your knowledge you have now?
It's all going to be all right. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Just let it happen. Enjoy the moment. That's always something I have to tell myself because, you get worried about, what am I going to, is this going to work out? But yeah, just go with the flow. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to trust yourself and back yourself that you will
Exactly.
figure it out. Even if it's not
Yeah.
perfect, you'll still figure it out and you'll land on your feet.
Yeah. That was something that really came up with me. Trust yourself. Yeah. You know yourself better than anyone.
Fantastic. Okay, Simon, thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your
Oh, I
life.
could talk for hours.
Where can people find you and how can they follow you on your big cycling adventure?
At Simon Cycles the World. Instagram, TikTok, hopefully YouTube too, Facebook, at Simon Cycles the World. I'd love to have you follow along the journey and I'm sure it will keep me going. I've also got a Buy Me a Coffee website so that if you've donated, only if you've donated, and you're out having a coffee, think of me alone on the road and you can buy me one too. Thanks very much for any support. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Simon. Thanks for listening to Life After Enough, a podcast about money, meaning, and the life you design when work becomes optional. If this episode made you rethink your future, share it with someone who's starting to question the script too. You can follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. I'm your host, Nick, and I'll see you next week as we keep building a life that's truly ours.